You've heard that storytelling is the key to content creation. It's what makes people feel and connect. But when you're in the travel industry, it can be really frustrating to create stories if you don't know how to create them in a way that connects. What do I mean by that? Well, it's time to tell your story in a way that isn't just once upon a time but here's how you can too. Let's dive in. Who wants to go on a cruise with me? No, I'm not kidding. Do you want to head out on the high seas with me on Royal Caribbean's brand new Utopia of the Seas ship? Well, if you want to get all kinds of business development, marketing training, and so much more, I am inviting you to cruise with me. Wanderlust Campus, where I am Director of Marketing, is hosting our annual retreat on board the Utopia of the Seas. It's going to be a 4-night cruise, and you're going to get some of the best travel agent education that you could find anywhere. I said some of the best, but let's be honest, it is the best. With Cindy Williams, myself, and other members of our Wanderlust Campus team, you cannot go wrong. So I want to invite you to travel with me. Go to www.wanderlustceo.com/sale. The link's in the show notes, not in the comments. That's an Instagram girl for you. The link is in the show notes, and I hope you will sail with me. Hey, y'all, and welcome to the Social Takeoff Podcast. I'm your host, Kelli Hay-Smith. If you have found yourself going down a scroll hole of Pinterest, Google, and YouTube looking for great ways to market your travel business, but you've found nothing but frustration there, you've landed in the right place. As a travel agent, what I loved most was marketing my business, and I succeeded in it. That's why I became a marketing expert for the travel industry. And now I spend my days teaching travel agents and agency owners how to market their business on social media and beyond. So if you're ready to grow your business using social media and other marketing tactics, buckle up and let's take off. Hey, y'all, and I'm sorry for the late start to this episode, and I'm sorry for the missed week last week. 2 weeks of travel with 30 hours of home in between and one night in my own bed in a matter of 14 days was a lot, and it just did not happen to get everything recorded. And we are going to talk about storytelling today. And I feel like I posted a reel yesterday on Instagram, and it got some traction about, so in the news right now is the story of I think it's 8, it may have been 6 passengers on a Norwegian cruise in Africa that got left behind. And when I say left behind, they weren't actually left behind. They missed the boat. Let's just be real. Like in the travel industry, we know the rule is you're back or we're going to leave you. And I posted a reel about how to use that in your content. But I think what we really need to focus on is the storytelling that comes from that. And so I get this question a lot. I don't understand how to storytell in my content. And I've talked a lot about emotion words. If you check out my Instagram and go back a little bit, you'll see some like feeling words that will help you up the content game and really make people connect with the stories that you tell. But people want to tell their story, and that's important. But if you tell your story, let's say that you tell your how I got started story. Even though you can tell your how you got started story, it becomes like a timeline, right? Well, first I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. And that's a cute story, but it's boring to people because it's not about them. And we've said this before, it's really important for people to be able to spot themselves in the stories that we tell. And so if we move from just telling our once upon a time story to a how you can too story, you are going to change the way that people consume your content and feel about your product. Here is the thing. Your product is your offer is your service, but your in-game product is the destination, right? And so it becomes very difficult. I talked a lot about this with not just on the stage at Las Vegas Travel Agent Forum, but also with different vendors about, we have to learn as travel agents how to marry the product and our offer for the right type of content and marketing. But you also have to tell the story from the client perspective. And so if we're going to tell the story from the client's perspective, we have to tell the story of how you can too. And when we tell the story of how you can too, we have to start with the desired outcome first. So instead of saying, once upon a time, I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, it becomes a story of, maybe this is just an example. Maybe you're sharing a reel of your latest vacation, and it's this beautiful picture of your family on vacation in a beautiful tropical location, or at Disney World, or on a cruise, or whatever, but you're showing your family all of these beautiful photos and amazing videos of you all doing these amazing things together. And what you want to, maybe you also show pictures of what vacations used to look like. And maybe that is something that, is not quite so glamorous. And then you can kind of show the before and after and share, this is how I got here. I learned what my options were, blah, blah, blah. And here's how I can help you get there too. So instead of it being all about, I used to go to Myrtle Beach on vacation because I didn't know my other options and I thought I couldn't afford it. I'm not coughing, I swear. I didn't know how to afford it. I didn't know how to research it, but then I learned, and now I can do this. It becomes more than that. It becomes a feeling that they can see themselves in your story. Do your vacations photos look more like this? An area that you're comfortable with because you've been traveling there since you were a toddler. You feel overwhelmed with the thoughts of planning something anywhere else, but you really want your vacation photos and your vacation memories to look like this. Let me share with you how we can do this together. And that way they are seeing themselves in your story. They are understanding that what they do, what they can do, is things that you can help them with. So, let's talk a little bit more about how to write that story. How to write not the once upon a time story, but the how you can too story. How you can too. You've got to first outline desired outcomes and put feeling behind it. You've got to consider things like beautiful moments you've had or helped create for other clients. Like, what outcome did you have? These beautiful first time experiences at different places. These beautiful memories of celebrations or whatever. Think about those outcomes and then feeling words, like not just, and sounds and sense words. So, the first time that my kids saw the open ocean from a cruise ship, their eyes filled with wonder, the deep blue of the ocean, those things are super important. So create a bank of those. You also are going to want to create a bank of like either adventure or drama or like disaster moments that you've dealt with in your own travel or for clients. And this is where I'm talking about the situation with Norwegian Cruise Line. Again, we know in the travel industry that these people were not left behind. They missed the boat. But here they now have this disastrous story. But you could tell that story where people see themselves in that. Would you know what to do if you were left in an African country with no plans made? They can see themselves there. And how would you guide them through the process of that not happening? How do they avoid that? And you also want to do some mistakes or silly things that you've done. I saw a story on social yesterday. I can't remember which platform I was on, but it was at Disney World. And apparently that one of the workers was filling up the barbecue sauce and just dumped it all over her. And she told the story about it, and it caught my eye, and I actually remember it. And so think about things like that when things happen to you or happen to your clients. And even though that doesn't feel like much of a transformation, people can see themselves in those stories because they know that those are the types of things that happen, that they've experienced. Walking into what are some things? I'm trying to think of some things travel-wise that have, I don't want to go too much into it, but this past week coming home from Vegas, I had a very bad experience with a Lyft, and I got in a car that was not a Lyft that I thought was a Lyft, and the car, long story short, I'm very, very lucky to not have ended up somewhere that was not the airport. Anyway, that was a long, that's a scary story that I can share when I'm ready to talk about it. I'm not yet ready to talk about it. It's been less than a week and I'm not ready to talk about it yet. Then I was going to get on the plane and the pilot had a medical emergency and they asked if anyone had any medical experience on the plane. And I waited for like a doctor to raise their hand. Nobody did. I was like, I'm not going to be birthing no babies, but like, what do you need? And it was like, we just need somebody to take his vitals. Yeah, I can do that. So there's some stories. There are always stories. What happens if you lose luggage? What happens if you get kicked off the plane? Or I was actually also sitting in front of that when the pilot had the medical emergency and we were waiting on a new pilot to get us to our destination. There was an older couple in front of me who had booked a Viking Mississippi River cruise. And they had booked with a travel agent, but the travel agent hadn't responded yet. So they were trying to figure out what they needed to do because Viking was supposed to pick them up and their travel was obviously changing. And I tried my best to help them through those questions. They said, well, we just don't know what to do because our kids are always with us when we travel and they handle all of this with the apps and stuff like that. And, all of those things that you're taught that you go through on a regular basis become stories and they become pieces of the puzzle that your clients don't have to manage on their own. And that helps you get through the transformation journey. Maybe the transformation is simply a peace of mind on your vacation. Maybe it's simply crafting those spectacular memories and talking about the feelings that you have. Whatever those things are, and you don't have just one story. There's multiple stories that you're writing as you go through this, but you've got to start with that end goal in mind. And like any good story, there are hiccups and plot twists and things like that are going to lead you there. But there's someone that walks you through that process, and that someone is you, especially when you've already done it. When you've either led a client through that or you've led yourself through that, the more that you can talk about those things in a storytelling manner and allow the person that you're talking about to see themselves in that story, the better off you're going to be. So next time you're asked to tell stories in your content, don't think of your once upon a time story, but really start thinking about how you can too story and what that looks like. I know this was a shorter episode, but I hope that this was helpful. Next time that we talk, we are going to talk about, I'm going to go over the 3 reasons why you don't seem to be closing vacations from your marketing. And I think it's really going to be an important episode. So I hope you will stay tuned for next week. I will talk with you all soon. I'm excited. Also, I always want you all to do something. So jump into my DMs on Instagram and share with me one of your conversion stories. Something that or your once upon a time story. No, not your once upon a time story. How you can too. It's a conversion story. Essentially, it's how to help you convert. But I like to call it a how you can too story. Anyway, jump into my DMs and share that with me. Also, I know that you heard an ad for it at the very beginning of this podcast, but I want to say out loud, this is going really fast. We are selling out quickly. Our Wander Beyond retreat. I'm meeting, I think tomorrow, to finalize the speaker list, and I can give that to you next week. But I know I will be speaking at Wander Beyond. This is our Wanderlust Campus annual retreat that we have done. We skipped 1 year, but usually we do this every year. We are hosting it on board the Utopia of the Seas. It is going to be some of the best business building that you can possibly get. And we are going to be on a cruise together. So we are going to work on getting content together, going to go on shore to work on getting content together. We are going to do some amazing work on your business, and it's going to be an amazing, amazing time. We're the first conference on board Utopia of the Seas, which is a brand new royal ship. And the last day to register with a 5 payment plan is April 30th. So this month is the month to get in if you want to do that. It is wanderlustceo.com/sale, SAIL. That, just like you heard in the beginning, but I would love to have some of you all on this cruise with us. I think that it would be life-changing. Remember that this is an investment into your business, but the fact that we are going to be on board a royal ship while you're on the cruise means the entire thing is an educational experience. So I would love to see you there. All right, y'all, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Social Takeoff Podcast. I'm so glad you were here. Make sure you're following along on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and pretty much anywhere else. You can find me at Kelli Hayes Smith everywhere there's social. And make sure you leave us a review. That's one way that we get to bring you more content each week. And we'll see you back here next Tuesday for an all-new episode of the Social Takeoff Podcast.